All right, gentlemen. So first things first, we're going to be talking about how to bisect an arc. But in order to talk about how to bisect an arc, first thing we got to do is we got to understand what an arc is, right? So I'm going to break down the parts of a circle. First things first, I'm going to talk about all the parts that are inside of a circle. So that's not a perfect circle, but I did my best. What part of the circle is this?
Radius, circumference.
Circumference, correct. And the circumference is just the distance around a circle, around the outside of a circle. And we have
Diameter.
this diameter, correct. What is the diameter, Timmel?
In between of circles.
Correct. It is the distance measured in a straight line across the center of the circle. That's what the diameter is. Then we have what is this?
Radius.
Radius, correct. Radius. Radius of the circle is the exact center of a circle. It's the middle of the circle. It means from this point here, I can touch any part of the circumference and it's going to be the exact same measurement all the way around it, right? It's not going to change. What does this refer to as? Get out your way so you can see.
Horizon.
What was that?
Horizon.
A horizon?
Yes.
Man, that was deep. It's deep, bro. You keep from here. No, not a horizon, but I like it.
Bayside got it.
Still is. You got it? You got it. Come on, Bayside.
Horizon.
It is a chord, correct. It is a chord, but also this a chord is just a straight line connecting any 2 points on the circumference, right? In the segment of a circumference. But it's also the span, our span. So the span can be a chord. It's just a straight line that's connecting a certain part of a circle that is at a given specified radius. What is this line representing? This green line
Rise.
here. You can locate your rise along this line. Yes.
Center point. Center point.
Center point, or we refer to it as mid-span. It's the center of the span is the direct middle of the span. So these are just some basic terminologies. This is what we refer to as parts of a circle here. All these components here, we're going to need to understand on how to bisect. Okay, so now here, talking about the bisecting process here. When we're bisecting, typically on the plans, the architect's gonna give us 2 out of 3 things. He's gonna give us the span, the rise, or the radius. He's gonna give us some combination of those. When he gives us span and rise, let's say Our span is 10 feet. Our rise is 2 feet. So there's a simple way to bisect this in order to determine where this point, we're trying to locate this little guy right here. We're trying to locate our radius point so we can swing this true radius, whatever radius they desire in the building. This goes for radius walls. If this wall was built at some kind of radius where it was bubbling out, or even openings. If these windows had arches in them, we're gonna lay it out the same way. Doesn't matter whether it's a wall or it's an opening, same process. So in order to do this, in order to create my center line so I can locate my radius point, I have to do what we call the arc scribe method.
3, 4, 5.
If my span is just a few inches, then yes, I could use the Pythagorean theorem to do something like that. But in this case, my rise is 2 feet. If I had like 6, 7 inches on the rise, I would 3, 4, 5 it, and then from that point, I could just snap it through and kind of run it wild a couple inches. It'll be pretty accurate, very accurate actually. But when I'm spanning feet, I don't want to run wild that far. So what I want to do is do the arc scribe method so I can give it a true center line all the way through. The way we do the arc scribe method, it's really easy. Just breaking it into equal parts. That's what the arc scribe method is. It's just a process of cutting lines in half perfectly. I'm gonna pick a number. And the rule of thumb is it has to be at least 3/4 of whatever this distance is. That's the number I want to use, nothing less than that. And that's just so I can give myself a sufficient amount of center line to locate my radius point. If I use anything less than 3/4, then my line's just going to be too short. I want this to extend, give me plenty of room so I can determine where that radius point is at so I don't have to do it twice. So, process of that is, I need 3/4 of this span. What's 3/4 of 10 feet?
7.5?
7.5, which translates into, that's decimal.
7'6".
7'6" correct. So I want to swing at least 7'6", and I want to swing it from my 0 point. If I pull 7'6" and I swing it here, I'm gonna swing it there. I'm gonna swing it on top and on bottom of my span. That same number. Same thing here. I'll hold it here. That would represent me swinging 7'6". Gonna hold my tape, draw my pencil, swing it, scribe an arc. Hold my tape, swing it, scribe an arc. Then I'm gonna do the same thing from the other side. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the exact, I have to mirror it on the other side. And I have to do it on top and on bottom of my span. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna pull my number, I'm gonna arc it. It's gonna give me an X like that. Nice little crosshair. Same thing from here. Gonna do the same thing, swing 18, or swing 7'6". That's what it's gonna look like on the ground. Minus this. Locate him after. So I have my span, I got my points, now all I need to do is snap that through. I'm gonna snap this all the way straight through. Now I have my center line. Now I know this is my 10-foot span. I can just verify it, and which I will. I'll always double check it because I like to measure twice and cut once. It's just a habit you should make. I'm gonna measure here, make sure I have 5 feet. Measure here, make sure I have 5 feet, then I know that thing is exactly centered. From that point there, now I'm gonna involve my rise into this equation. I'm gonna pull up 2 feet, make a mark. That represents my 2-foot mark. Then all I'm gonna do is now this is gonna turn into my new span. Where my rise leads either side, we'll call this the tangent point or the curvature point, the beginning of the arc and the end of the arc. But it's my most extreme point on my arc. This line essentially becomes this line now. And I can do it this way. I can do it on the right side, it doesn't matter because they're equal. If I choose the left or the right, I'm left-handed, so I just typically always favor the left side. It's just a habit I've developed over the years. However you choose to do it, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent with it. Same thing I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna take this line here. I wanna make sure I use at least 3/4 of this line. I'm gonna measure it out, whatever it is. I typically don't do the math. If I measure a line at 10 foot, I'll use 10 foot for my arch drive. If I measure this line right here and it's 6'4½", I'm just gonna pick 6'4" or 6'5". I'm gonna pick something close to it. I'm just not gonna go any less than 3/4 of whatever that span is. So now once I have this line, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I'm gonna hold my tape here and do the same thing. I'm gonna swing on top and on bottom of this span. I'll swing on top, on bottom. I'm gonna end up same marks. These marks should be 90 degrees from the center. They should be aligning up 90 degrees from the center, because remember, I'm actually taking that line and I'm splitting it directly in half. So this line should create 4 90-degree angles right there. Once I have that, I'm gonna connect this line. I'm gonna snap this through my points, through my center. Now I have that. When my primary center line and my secondary center line meet, now I found that. That's what that point represents. Wait for me to double check it to make sure that, what's our tolerances typically in the field? What do they hold us to? What are they holding you to at the job site? An 8. An 8 is our tolerance out here. Anything greater than that, we gotta make adjustments, we gotta fix it, right? So all I'm gonna do is from this point here, I'm gonna measure 10 to 0, and to my rise, I should have the same number at all 3 of those points.
Okay.
Once my number is on those 3 points at the exact same number, within an 8 tolerance, I'm good to swing it. I can now have my partner hold me there, or use my job site made apprentice, a little bit of rebar and a couple of weights and a nail. And now I can drop it there, and I can now swing this arc, holding my tape here, and it'll swing me an arc just like that. And it'll be this radius right here. Whatever distance, if this measures 12 foot 6 1/4, that's my radius. I'm swinging a 12 foot 6 1/4 radius. So whatever measurement I take and it matches all 3, that is equal to the actual radius of the circle that I'm swinging. The way I kind of explain it to people, students, how many of you guys like making homemade pizzas?
I like pizza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Microwave.
Microwave is still made in your home. It's still okay. I like it. So you throw a pizza in the oven, pull it out. That first cut we make down the center.
Yeah.
Then we make the next one down the center. Then we make the next one center of those. Next one center of those. You can do that all day. Just keep cutting it down to the centers. Same thing we're doing right here. We're bisecting this into equal parts, and we're finding center, center. I can break this down into center. I can keep going over and over. It's gonna lead me to the same point, which is that point right there. And that's all we're doing. But for the sake of production, just so we're not out there playing around and goofing off and snapping a bunch of lines, this right here is enough to get you there, right? So this is bisecting the arc using the arc scribe method. Any questions on that?
Good.
You guys like it? You love it?
Perfect.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.